you've probably never seen this kind of J-hooks for any kind of squat rack, right? What they're gonna do is they have a side that's flat and a side that's open, right? We have a lot of barbell exercise, so this is something to learn. You're gonna always go out and then pull it in, right? We have labels and everything, so what we do is label everything, hey, I want them to start at a level 7. So that means the hole goes into level 7. And when all the racks are labeled, so that you know where the holes are gonna be, right? We also have different labels for chest press, for squat, and for incline press. So it helps us understand where the holes are gonna go. If somebody, the only thing that changes, this is based on somebody that's like 5'7". If you're a little bit smaller than that, you're probably gonna go one lower than anything, right? It just helps us. S, squat, I, incline bench press, and then, yeah, exactly, back squat. And then C is chest press. So like you'll probably be, right, these are old numbers, so we're gonna erase that and make new ones. You'll probably be here for a squat, right? Okay, so barbell chest press. So on the assessment and on almost everything that we do for barbell chest press, we start with a push-up from here just because it's the easiest way to understand how to do a push-up correctly, because you have to put less upper body into it, right? So I'm gonna start pretty high. I'm gonna show you guys what we're looking for, okay? Okay, so right now the bars are even. I have a straight bar. What I always tell clients is, hey, you're gonna always grip the bar like this. You're never gonna do suicide grip. If you tell me, hey, can I grip like this because my thumbs hurt and I have arthritis, that's a different story. I'll probably allow it, but for the most part, you always want to make sure you grip this way for safety reasons. There's no other reason than a safety reason, right? From here, I'm going to make sure that I'm standing nice and tall and I'm tucking in my butt. A lot of people start and they have really, really mobile ankles. They'll start with their heels flat. So they'll do this, and it's really hard for somebody to understand how to make their body stiff if they keep their heels flat to the ground. So we're gonna try to always, as you're going up, squeeze your butt, go down, and then push away. Right, go down, push away. That's a good question. Not always, because sometimes when they go on their tippy toes, they also like over the bar too much, right? So we wanna be more in the ball of the foot, right? Like mid-foot, I would say, or mid-foot. Then after that, this is where we can put the yoga block. Let me go ahead and get the yoga block. So what we do is somebody that doesn't know how to create stiffness, and stiffness, a lot of times, you know what? Go ahead and, Kiara, why don't you go ahead and get yourself into the bar, okay? Don't produce any stiffness, right? Okay, so if I'm here, I'm gonna be like, okay, if you're not producing stiffness, most likely you have an arch in your back, right? I can see it from the side. I want you to squeeze your butt. And you might not know what that means, right? If you don't know how to squeeze your butt, this is where this helps, okay? So, okay, relax your butt. Now I want you to pull your belly button in. Okay, so it didn't change much, right? I'm gonna have you open up your legs a little bit. I'm gonna put you this in between. Go ahead and come back together. Now I want you to squeeze your butt. Do you feel that tightness between your legs? So now you feel tighter. Okay, go ahead and relax again. Okay, relax again, and now I'm gonna, so right now she's pretty flimsy. I might touch her from the hip, but she's pretty flimsy. If I go between the legs again, squeeze, it's a lot stiffer. I wanna teach that first. I want to make sure I teach that first before they start. And I usually do that in the assessment. When I first have them, I want to give them knowledge in the assessment, right? Okay, from here, some people don't know how to start with their hands. They might start too far away from the bar or too close to the bar. I really don't know until they start doing their first move. If it's like here, oh, we need to get a little bit closer to the bar. If it's like right here, we need to get a little further from the bar, right? We always look for tension in the lats, right? So what I want you to think about is I always use the cue, hey, I want you to, are you ticklish?
A little bit.
Okay, so I always ask the client, we talked about this on your session, right? Yeah, exactly. So let's say the class ticklish, okay, well, I want you to think about it. If I was gonna tickle you from the side, what would you do to tighten this muscle, right? Yeah, exactly. So she pulls her shoulders down. I'm looking for that. I'm looking for her to pull her shoulders down as she's getting ready to do a push-up, right? So as she's pulling her shoulders down, now I want you to pull your belly button in, and you're gonna go chest to bar. Go ahead and start going down. Yeah, so I'm looking at your elbows to be somewhat diagonal. I don't want them to flare out, right? Show me a flared out push-up. Exactly, right? So you have no stiffness in your lats, right? So I want to make sure that's nice and stiff, right? Let me think. Any questions on that so far? So far, any questions?
You'd like that to be in the back.
I want them to,
Are you okay with them as long as the elbow pushes back?
Yeah, I mean, I want them, and then what I'm saying is you're not gonna fix this overnight. It's not gonna happen today. Maybe on a new person that's never worked out, definitely not. But you wanna get something straight. If I can fix your stiffness, I'll take that over anything. I'll take stiffness, learning how to be stiff over anything. The flaring out of the elbows, we can work on. Another thing that we want to look at is the knuckles. You see how our knuckles are pointing up? Also people, a lot of people bench press like that too, right? Yeah. When I always try to push knuckles into the ground, I always tell them, hey, I don't punch like this. You're gonna break your wrist if you punch like this. You always wanna punch like this, right? Exactly. So from here, it's gonna be a little bit harder to create stiffness on your lats. Act like I'm gonna tickle you again, okay? So now let's go do a couple push-ups like that. A little bit harder to keep, right? Especially because of your wrist. Right, your wrist prevents that. But if we teach it now, it's a little bit easier than if we teach it later. It's hard to reteach the wrist, especially guys in general. Guys are so used to keeping their wrist like this that it's so hard to reteach, and then we end up not being able to go past a certain weight because of that. That's a limiting factor. Not anything else in their body, it's just the wrist, right? So wrist, I'm looking at wrist, I'm looking at elbows. But really what drives it is between the wrist and the lat. If that's right, you're not gonna flare your elbows. No chance you're gonna flare your elbows, right? I don't have to correct the elbows if these two things are tight, right? And then from here, go ahead and try to, let me take this thing off here. Go ahead and try to arch your back. The other way, sorry, arch, not round. Yeah, okay, so now, if I see this, that just means that she's not pulling her belly button in and she's not keeping her butt tight, right? That's what I'm looking for, right? Keeping your belly button in, pushing your butt tight. Go ahead and take a break. Let me think. So I'm looking at your wrist, I'm looking at your lats, I'm looking at making sure that your heels come slightly off the ground, because you might be mobile, you may not. I don't know as a coach what their assessment was like, but I do know what a good push-up looks like. And I'm looking at not overwhelming them, right? I want to make sure that they take one thing at a time, take a win for today. Hey, nice way to keep your, don't even mention their wrist, they're just trying to work on their stiffness, right? Take one thing at a time. It helps them a lot. And this is one source of help, right? And I found this in the past 6 months. Somebody told me about it. I'm like, oh my God, this works so well for new people. We're always looking for things like that. So if you have some other things that I'm coaching and you're like, dude, this works really well for me, please say it. We're always looking for something like that. Let me see if I missed something on that. The first couple ones are gonna be the hardest to teach for me to you, because they're gonna be the most things. Eventually, if we get this push-up right, everything else just follows through, right? Just keeps going through. Okay, so that's the barbell push-up. So what we're gonna try to do now is a hand plank. Let me get a mat real quick. So we're going lateralized first, okay? We're gonna cross the thing. If somebody can't do a push-up right, I sometimes think showing how to do a hand plank is a lot easier. I can learn how to create stiffness from a hand plank before a push-up, right? So I usually teach a hand plank with this. We usually start with this. I go down on my hands. I start with my legs wide because wider base is more stable, correct? If we keep our legs together, a lot of times it's hard. So I almost always teach everything a little bit wide. From here, if I see them arching their back or I see them pulling out, then I'll have them close their legs together and add this between their legs, okay? That's the first cue. Some people have wrists, like Lucretia has really weak wrists, so she never likes to be on her hands. Well, so theoretically, I could do this, right? Theoretically. Now we're talking about people's patience for us, and we're talking about biomechanics, right? She has really weak wrists. You can't ask somebody that weighs over 200 pounds to put weight on their hands. They haven't done it in years. What can they do? Number one, I can go on my elbows, so it's gonna be a little bit harder. Number two, I can switch my grip around a little bit, right? So I always have them, okay, this hurts, let's switch your grip to facing out. That's a neutral position. Sometimes this works for people, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, right? So if I switch my grip to this, it's a lot more comfortable for some people. Another thing that we can do is put dumbbells underneath, right? Dumbbells underneath, you're in a neutral grip, you never hurt at all. I never have anybody hurt unless you have arthritis on their hands. It doesn't hurt, right? Okay, so for a hand plank, things I'm looking for is, am I arching my back, right? Do I know how to keep my butt tight? If I'm a guy, so and as you guys are coaching someone, you always want to ask, hey, is it okay if I touch you? Especially if you're first time with that client. Is it okay if I touch you? You always want to ask. You never want to assume, right? Especially if a guy's coaching a girl, or a girl's coaching a guy, that's also, you just never know. But you always, no matter what you're coaching, female or male, always ask, do you mind if I touch you? Yes. So what I do, Brett, go ahead and get in a hand plank position. All right, so we're gonna get into a hand plank. I'm gonna have I'm looking for his shoulders to be over his hands, right? A lot of people are behind, a lot of people are on top. I wanna make sure they're behind. Does your wrist hurt right there? Great, that's perfect. Okay, so from here, I'm pushing him like I did to you. I'm making sure that he's not stable. All right, I want you to squeeze your butt a little bit more, and I want you to pull your belly button in. Way better, right? A lot stiffer. Okay, so that looks good. I want you to now get your legs closer together. Perfect. And I want you to squeeze your butt again. There we go. Pull your belly, your hips up. So I'm looking at him from the side. I want to make sure he's in a straight line, right? That's pretty good for me. Let me push him around a little bit. Yeah, it looks pretty stiff. You feel pretty stiff there? Good. Okay. So if I can get this correct, I can get a push-up correct. If I can't get this correct, it's gonna be really hard to get a push-up correct, right? So sometimes this could be a regression for some people. If you can't get somebody and you're teaching them this, it's okay to take them from a push-up to this and then come back to a push-up so they can understand it better if they need to, correct? Go ahead and stay there and let's put this in between your legs. And I want you to tighten up and try to not let me pull it up. So a lot of times I'll test them, I see if I can pull it out. That's also creating stiffness, right? There you go, exactly, it's much better. A lot of times what people will do though is they'll drop their back and they arch it, right? So I want hips a little higher and I try to keep it stiff. There you go, that's much better. Now his back is neutral for me, right? Does your back hurt right now? Great, go ahead and relax. There we go. Questions on that? No? So like we're talking about, some uncomfortable things on here would be wrist. First thing I always think about, what can I do without bringing new equipment? It's just a pain in the butt, right? Logistically, if I can deal with somebody in the same pattern without bringing extra equipment, I'm good. So the first thing I'll try from here is neutral. The second thing I'll try, if it hurts my wrist, dumbbells, right? That's the first, the things I'll use to cue them and to coach them through it, right? Questions on that?
So if they're having pain in their wrist because their wrist is weak, so would you gradually be switching their hand to the proper position?
Yes, good question. It could be. Some people just get stuck with that way for a long time. So they just think that, or they might just hurt from that one time, and now they don't want to go back to it. So let's say you had Lucretia today, and you wrote a note, hey, she likes neutral grip better, so I'm going to do it next. But let's say after this note that I did it, I don't remember it, and next time I do it, I do straight. If she doesn't complain about it, I'm good. But she might remember that herself, right? So it might be something that we teach this way, right? Forever for her, right? It just depends on that time. I mean, there's times that she can do this okay, and there's times like my wrist hurt right now, day to day, right? Day to day. It just becomes a day-to-day thing. Okay, so we try to make sure that a client can hold this for 30 to 40 seconds. If they can hold it 30 to 40 seconds, that's a good standard of stiffness. Create stiffness for that amount of time, right? Okay, so next we go to kneeling scapular push-ups. So what we're gonna be here is, we're gonna be on our knees. I'm gonna be on my, I guess I'm gonna be on my forearms, on my hands. So same thing, I'm not gonna be loading my hands that much. We can do this for comfortable, but for this one, let's just keep it like they're not hurting your wrist because my knees are down, right? This is another way we wanna teach. We wanna teach three things really. We wanna teach scapular mobility. We want to teach, not just with this, in general, scapular mobility. We want to be able to teach hip tilting, right? Somebody be able to understand what hip tilting means. And we also want to be able to see somebody's ankle. Ankle mobility is a big deal for most people that can't squat or something. If we increase the ankle mobility, or we can add, how would you say that? Auxiliary equipment to make sure the ankle mobility fits better, like you raise their heels, we'll get to that. That helps out a lot of people be able to get to a deeper squat. It doesn't fix the problem, which is the ankle mobility, it just helps them get there faster, right? Okay, so scapular push-ups, or scapular, what is it, scapular push-ups, kneeling? What does it say? Okay, yeah, perfect. So I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna make sure I have my belly button in. My back is flat right now, right? One thing I'm looking for is them not to do a cat-cow, right? I want the movement to come from the scaps, right? So I'm looking for them to round their upper back as much as they can, and then I'm gonna have my fingers between their shoulder blades and trying to see if they can pinch them together. Most people just have this kind of movement in the beginning, right? Not much. Eventually, I want them to be able to come back and forth, right? This is a progression of a standing scap retraction. Standing scap retraction would be this one, right? So I want to make sure they can do this movement, and I might do it in warm-up just to test them prior to getting on the hand and doing that, right? Or let's say I forgot about it, I start this, I'm like, oh, you can't move your scapula. Hey, Roger, hold on for a second. Go ahead and kneel for me, or just stand up for me, and we're gonna work on scapular retractions, right? I wanna see if you can round and retract. If they can do this, they should be able to do that no problem, because you're minimally loaded, unless they have a shoulder tear, a prior injury there. That's like you might have. No, but you don't have a shoulder tear. You have elbow.
It's a good elbow. Man.
Yeah, it's the elbow, right?
Good now.
It's the elbow. But I would ask that, like, hey, if they can't do it, it's like, did you have a shoulder tear before? I might ask that because they might develop scar tissue and they might have compensated for that at some point in their life, right? Okay, so I'm just looking for the movement of the shoulder blades. Like I said, I don't want to have my hips tilt. That's a different movement. We'll get to that. I want to have this shoulder blades retracting. If I teach this becomes a lot easier, right? This becomes a lot easier. Let's go to a negative barbell push-up. So another one that we like to teach is if somebody cannot fully get a barbell push-up, we would just go negatives, right? Everybody know what a negative is? Eccentric. Eccentric negative, the same word, is going on the lower face of any lift, right? You're usually a lot stronger during the eccentric or negative face of the lift. So what I would do is, hey, set him up the same way you did. Balls of the feet down. I want to make sure you're squeezing your butt. I want to make sure you have your belly tight. Pull your belly button into your spine. I'm going to inhale going down, and then I'm going to put my leg in and come up by help. Right? That's a negative movement. Usually on negatives, we try to look for 4 to 6 seconds going down. 4 to 6 seconds going down. So inhale, hold, and up, right? I'm looking for their form not to break during those 6 seconds. I don't want them to arch their back and get there like this, right? I want to make sure they're tucking my pelvis in and I'm able to squeeze my butt the whole time. A cue that works for squeezing your butt, let's say keeping a penny between your butt cheeks. Let me think. That's just one cue. You'll see us use a lot of different cues. Like if I'm standing straight, if I ask somebody, hey, push, or I'm gonna push you, and I ask you to squeeze your butt, I'm gonna push you, it's gonna be a lot different. They're gonna be a lot stiffer and you're barely gonna be able to have them move, right? So another one that I could use is like, hey, Kiara, go ahead and relax yourself. There you go. Okay, now go squeeze your butt. You see how much stiffer you are? That's easy. I can do that right now and teach them how to do it standing. So I would do that before I do a push-up if they're lacking that, or I can't get them to understand how to do that. Take them off the bars, have them stand, try to squeeze your butt, get them to understand, push them. You see how much stiffer you are? Let's do the same thing on the bar, right? That's really easy to do, right? Yeah, so you can, on a negative push-up, you can always use your legs. Some people are just afraid of getting down there, right? So you're like, hey, you're always welcome to use your leg a little earlier, but a lot of things is confidence. How do you build confidence on people? Hey, I don't have to see you touch the ground, right? We can just start here, and that's it. Start there, start halfway through the movement. Range of motion, that's another one of the progressions, right? Start with half the range of motion, and eventually get to full. Just make sure you write notes on that. Like, make sure you tell us, hey, that person can only go halfway down. Or the other one, what's another way of regressing this exercise? Bringing it up, right? So stepping it up, right? It might be too low for them at this time. We can't do it, right? So let's bring it up a little bit and write it down, right? Yeah, okay, perfect. So on all these four, no hip sagging, right? We don't want to sag our hips. We want to squeeze our butt. We want to be able to understand how to squeeze your butt, right? Use the block if it helps you out. Obviously, you take away the wide stance to a narrow stance, but it will help you understand. You can even do it this way. Hey, have them stand. Don't let me take a block away from you, right? Because you're externally rotating your knees, so it makes you tighten up your butt, right? Go ahead and try this for me. Relax yourself. Okay. You see how you're externally rotating your knees? It's really hard to teach that for people. Like if I'm having you stand, hey, without moving your feet, try to squeeze your butt. Your knees start twisting out. A little bit, right? If I'm pushing my hips forward, I'm squeezing my butt, my knees start trying to twist out. That's you're externally rotating your knees. It's the same way doing it, but with an external thing on you, right? Go ahead and relax. There you go. All right. So, any questions on that one? On those four? No? I feel like if you can look at the wrist, look at the shoulders and the lats, look at the back and look at the feet. If one of those is not it, you found a new concept that we haven't heard of. One of those four are usually it, right? One of those four are usually it. All right, so we're going down to kneeling push-ups. Some people call them girl push-ups. Not politically correct now. We're gonna call them kneeling push-ups forever. And this is definitely a little bit harder because you're always gonna, especially you're gonna think about somebody that's overweight. they have a belly in front of them. So no matter what, they're gonna have to have their hips back a little bit. They cannot be straight. So you have to be conscious of who you're working with. If somebody's skinny, it's gonna look different than somebody that's not skinny, right? So if I have a big belly right here, this is probably as far as I can get, and I have to keep my hips a little bit bent to understand that that's still okay. Like, you got this. Like, you're still progressing. Somebody that's not skinny, I can go all the way down, and my hips are staying a lot straighter, right? So it's gonna be, what I'm looking for is not flaring out, right? What I'm looking for is the same thing as tightness. I wanna see, can they tighten up the lats a little bit, right? So this is what my lats look like when they're tight. This is what my lats look like when they're loose. So I'm almost always looking for the shoulders to drop a little bit, right? If they're dropping, that means they're tightening up their lats. Let's see. Yeah, so this will most likely be doing with people that are smaller in the midsection, a kneeling push-up. You also want to think about clients' comfort. You don't want, like, people that are somewhat heavy, they do not like jumping. They do not like feeling their belly going up and down, right? So it's just things to think about ahead of time. Like, I program a jump, try it. Don't mention that. Wait until they say something, because we do want people to eventually jump and be athletic, and that's part of our balance. You get better balancing by jumping. There's a lot of benefits to jumping. The knees get stronger, everything gets stronger. I mean, I've seen really overweight people jog, right? So that's okay up to a point, right? So yeah, shoulders, I'm looking for shoulders on a kneeling push-up. I'm looking, if they don't have a belly, try to keep your spine nice and erect. It's gonna be a lot harder to squeeze your butt for sure, but you wanna make sure you have your hands right under your shoulders. That's another thing, when you start doing push-ups on the floor, and we'll talk about it for kneeling, your hands, you're always gonna have somebody start at the bottom, and we're gonna have them start right on top of their hands. If you start at the top, you don't really know where to go, right, how far to go. So I usually like to just have one idea for everybody, and that is starting on the floor. You're gonna have your hands right underneath your shoulders. Obviously this requires a little bit of mobility. If you don't have that mobility, it's a little bit different. You might go a little bit wider. And from here, I'm gonna push away. Right? What I don't want to do is I don't want to push away, keeping my hips on the ground. I want to push away with my hips at the same time. It's the same thing on a push-up on a barbell. You should see the shoulders and the hips come up and down together. You don't want to see one or the other. It's going to be really unstable, right? So I'm looking at the hips and the shoulders to come down together. Questions on this one? Or anything so far we've gone over? No? Am I going too fast? Am I going just right? Do you guys like me using you for examples? Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're gonna go to a bench push-up. Let me grab a bench. If you want water or anything, you're more than welcome to at any time, okay? All right, so now, now we're back to an elevated push-up essentially, but you don't have something to grip, right? You have a bench. One thing I'll tell you is whenever somebody's doing a bench push-up, this slides a little bit. So what I might do is I might put it a little bit more towards the black mat. The black rubber doesn't slide. You also want to kind of understand the person. The person's a little bit already like sketchy, brand new to a gym environment. You always want to set them up to succeed. Don't even wait until the first set. Just put it closer to that black side, right? All right, so for a bench push-up, what I'm gonna make sure I'm doing is I'm gonna set up the same thing I would have, it's just a set bench. We can't go up and down, right? If I wanna go up, I have to go to a bar. If I wanna go down, I have to go to a bar or the floor, right? So it's just a variability that we don't have to get equipment for a bench push-up. I'm gonna have my hands flat on the ground. From here, I'm gonna try to touch my chest to the bench and back up. So a lot of times what we'll see is just this, right? And like I said, we wanna make sure your hips come down with your shoulders, right? Squeeze my butt, my hips come down with my shoulders and pull away, right? I'm squeezing my lats. The way I always coach any push-up. Okay, we're set up at the top, hands are down. I'm gonna squeeze my butt, I'm gonna make sure my lats are tight. And my lats tight, I'm gonna pull my shoulders back, right? One or the other. Lats tight, pull your shoulders back. Hey, pull the belly button to your spine, or try to squeeze that orange between your armpits, whatever you wanna use for that lat cue. And then inhale going down for the most part, and exhale going up for the most part. That's something we haven't talked about. It's breathing, right? Focus on one thing at a time. Every session that you have a new client, it's a lot easier to focus on different things. But in the beginning, hey, like if the person's getting out of breath, let's focus on breathing. If the person is starting to feel their back, let's focus on the posture, right? Let's just pick the best thing for them, and we don't never know what that is. It's up to you to figure that out. If there's not one best thing, then just pick one thing, right, for now. If you think you can handle, they think that they can handle two things, they're a little bit more experienced, go for it, right? The goal is to get them faster to that point that they can succeed on their own. If they can handle it and they fix one thing as soon as you told them, and you can try to fix another thing, go for it, right? Just for sure, absolutely. But that's when emotional intelligence matters. You want to make sure that you understand how they feel before you can continue to progress on different things on the same day, right? On the same day. Not much here that's different, right? Not much here. It's just the grip changes. I don't have to be like this. I'm gonna have to be open hands. Okay, so now from kneeling, I go to toes, right? So this is a progression. So now I was here before. Now I'm looking for my body to be stiff, right? I might still add this guy in between my legs, and I'm looking for here. So the only thing that moves is my shoulder blades, right? I don't want anything else to move, right? Some people are just gonna do this, and that's okay, right? They might just need to come here to get more range of motion. So we wanna build this range of motion on your knees before you go up to the floor on your toes, right? The more range of motion, the better. Then you have more strength through that range of motion, right? Any questions on any of that so far? I actually want you guys to try it. Why don't we try doing a kneeling plank scap retraction. Let's go and try the kneeling scap retraction. I want to coach you guys through it. There you go. Do you want a mat, Brett? No? Okay, let's go for it. So let's go on your knees first. And you're gonna be a little bit closer to your hands to your knees. Exactly, so you're gonna be on a 90-90, right? Exactly, just like that. All right, from here, I want you to pull your belly button to your spine before you start. And now I'm gonna have my hand between your shoulder blades. I want you to push your shoulders away from you as far as you can, up. Yes, round your shoulders as much as you can. Now I want you to do the opposite. Pull your shoulders back and try to pinch my fingers together without bending your elbows. Without bending your elbows, exactly. Up again. Push away, up. And back down. Good. And now try not to use your back. So this is difficult, right? This is very difficult. It's hard to isolate that movement, but you should be feeling it all across here, right? All right, let's do about 10 of those. I want to try and see if I can fix you guys as you do it. There you go. Exactly. And a lot of people will do exactly what you guys just did. They will use their back and they will bend their elbows. It's very difficult to understand this. Perfect. There you go. So you should be feeling your scaps. We're working a lot right now. And this is something that not everybody focuses. But if we want to row, want to do pull-ups, want to do push-ups good, this is a really good version to understand before we move forward with anything, right? With anything. Okay, so now let's go ahead and kneel. And let's try the scap retractions. So this should be a lot easier. Now that you got that, this should be really easy. So straight and then pull back, right? So this was loaded, this is unloaded. Another progression principle, right? We're unloading the lift. So I'll make sure if we can't understand this, hey, I know you did it last time with my arms straight and foot on. Let's try to do the same thing, but on the floor. Like, so we're trying to progress them up, right? Questions on that? I'm definitely glad you guys did it. For sure. All right, hold on. Let me get my water bottle before we continue. I'm getting thirsty. All right. Yeah, so one big thing on that one is control the movement with the scapula only. You see other parts of the body moving, lower back, elbows, you want to try to shut that off. That way, the more they understand the scapula moving, the better, right? All right, so the next one, walking plank or bear crawl. Walking plank is just what it sounds. You're literally on your hands and your feet and you're walking without changing anything around your body. A little bit harder, but on the same level as a scapular plank. So all we're doing is here, right? So that's, for me, is showing me that you can stabilize your scapula and your lower back at the same time, right? I'm not moving much and people don't understand that. People try to do this, right? That is a bear crawl next. We're gonna go over that. So on a walking plank, you're starting on your hands underneath your shoulders, and all we're trying to do is take a step with the opposite sides, right? Right hand, left foot. Left hand, right foot. Right hand, left foot. Left hand, right foot. I'm moving maybe an inch on each. That's okay. What I'm looking for is not doing this, right? I'm looking for not doing this, right? And most people will try to do same hand, same leg. They almost always try. That's the way you have to get them out of, right? And the next one would be bear crawl. A bear crawl, you're gonna start always knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders, and then you're gonna pull your knees off, right? We're gonna do small steps, keeping your back flat, pulling your belly button to your spine, opposites, 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 opposites. Let's try to move about an inch. I don't care about the length for now. I just wanna make sure they understand how to do the opposites. It is a very mental game for that one, for somebody starting. It takes a lot of effort. Somebody that's really heavy is gonna have a hard time with it because of the weight on the wrist and their quads. Everybody thinks it looks easy, and it's like, oh, you made it look so easy. No, and it is a cardiovascular exercise a lot of times because you're facing down and all the weight's in front of you, right? Let me double check something. Yeah, it definitely teaches stiffness and scapular stability, okay? Everybody done a bear crawl before? Bear crawl?
I did it the other day.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, you did, exactly. Okay, perfect. So what I'm looking, like once again, I'm looking for not this, right? I'm keeping my back nice and stiff. I'm pulling my belly button into my spine. I don't want to look for this either, right? A lot of people try to avoid that. If this is too difficult, then we're just gonna be able to do a hold. A hold is the best place to start, right? So all I'm doing is I'm gonna take an inch. A lot of people try to keep it here. Hey, just be an inch off the ground. Lean forward. I wanna make sure the shoulders are over the hands, right? Shoulders are over the hands. This will teach him, if you can hold this for 30 seconds, you'll be ready to try a walking forward and backwards, right? We always teach walking forward first, much later, try backwards. Don't try on the same day. It's gonna be really hectic. Questions on that? Comments? No? All right, sweet. All right, so we're gonna go hip banded push-ups. So let me move this out. Let's put a band around this rack. So we have on every rack, there's a low bar and a high bar, right? We usually on every note, we write low bar or high bar because it depends a lot. It makes a big difference depending on the low bar or high bar. For demonstrations, I don't really care. I'm just gonna put it over here. So on the hips, you're just gonna put this on your hips. For somebody that's overweight, this is a little uncomfortable. Just know that. What I try to do as a coach, if somebody's overweight, I try to pull the band for them, have them get in, and then let it go. And I also try to know when they're gonna finish, I try to take it off from them so it's a little uncomfortable. Otherwise, they're all over the place. They're like this, right? They're really uncomfortable. So always think about catering to the client. How can I make him, and especially in a group class, how can I make him feel less, not dumb, but like intimidated? Like, oh, I don't want to have a bad experience. I don't want everybody to see my fat, right? Yeah, insecurity. Thank you. That's a really good way to put it, for sure. Okay, so what we're gonna try and do on this first one, we're gonna do negatives. So we're gonna go down. So then from here, I'm gonna do the same thing I was doing before on a hand plank. I'm gonna have my hands over my shoulders. I'm gonna decide if this should take away the need for that block, right? Because I'm taking away the need to be really, really stiff right now. I'm trying to work on the upper body only. I'm not concerned on my lower body anymore. Unless I start getting really hard or a light band, then I'm gonna have to think about it. So on this one, I'm gonna go down, hands down, or knees down, up, right? So I'm going down, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. I get to the floor, I put my knees down, and I push away, and I pick up my knees afterwards. That's the easiest variation, right? Second variation would be going down, and I'm pushing up at the same time, right? Going down, pushing up. There shouldn't be a need for you to do kneeling with a band, right? We should be able to do kneeling pushes by this point, right? From here to here, there shouldn't be a need for a band because you're already not using your hips on a kneeling push-up, right? Let me think. Questions on that? No? All right, why don't we try it? This is gonna be a little bit too much weight. Let me give you a little bit less. We also have about all the same bands. Red's the lightest, purple's the next heaviest, blue, green, orange, and red. And you'll learn that with all the exercises we do. We'll definitely have lighter and heavier ones. All right, girl, let's give you a shot and let's get on here. So I'm gonna act like you were my client. I'm gonna put it on for you, okay? So, all right, we're gonna get on here. We're gonna go ahead and step in. Go ahead, yep, I'm gonna put it around your hips. Go ahead and step forward, let's get on the ground. Oh wait, hold on, there you go. Make sure it's on your hips, good. All right, so I'm gonna have you be on your hands. Go ahead and pick up your knees from the floor. There you go. All right, so I want you to try to squeeze your butt and let's go. You already have your lats tight. All right, so now we're gonna go down into a push-up. Go about 6 seconds going down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and put your knees down. There you go, and push away. Nice, not bad, right? Okay, so now what I want you to focus on is when you get down, don't shrug your shoulders, bring them down instead. Okay, let's go ahead. We talked about this last time.
Yes.
There's a boxing gym next door too, so you guys know that's what it sounds is.
There's a what?
Boxing gym next door. Yeah. All right, so now shoulders down. Go ahead. Much better. Pull your knees down, and let's come up. You don't have to come up slow. You can come up normal speed. Yeah, you're just trying to reset yourself for the next one, right?
Gotcha.
Not bad. The band takes away a little bit of weight, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and relax. Any questions on that? So one thing I noticed is the traps, right? Going up. That to me means that she somewhat has either mobility issues with your scapula or you're just not strong with your scapula. One or the other. And we're gonna learn how to do that a lot more as we go through with this. I would also expect us to find a lot of deficits with both of you as we move forward, and we're gonna work on that, which is great. Which is great because you can fix your own body a lot easier when we see this, right? Brett, let's try it out. I want you to act like you're really, really weak. All right, so we're gonna put it on here. All right, so go ahead and push yourself forward. Hands on top of your shoulders. All right, you're gonna try and stiffen up your butt. I want you to go about 6 seconds going down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knees down. And let's come up. There you go. All right, let's do it again. This time I'm gonna have you tucking your chin. So whenever I teach a push-up, I also have them tuck in their chin. I don't wanna put too much cervical flexion on their spine, right? All right, go ahead and go down. Slow, slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knees down, pull up. All right, so I noticed that your shoulder blades are coming in, but go ahead and push up again. Okay, I want you to think about squeezing this muscle right here. Belly up, higher, higher, higher. Let's keep squeezing right here. All right, now go back down slowly. Good, and now back up. There you go, a little bit more arch on your back, but did you feel that more in your shoulder blades? Yeah, okay, so we have some kind of dysfunction between the shoulder blades and his lower back. We need to figure this one out in the next couple of weeks. There's some people, and especially guys, that are used to a lot of bench pressing. They're used to arching their backs a lot, and they're used to looking up on a push-up, so they're used to keeping their back arched, right? We have to try to sometimes, if they come in with lower back pain, I have to get them away from that. It depends. If they don't have lower back pain, I might not switch that around. But if they have lower back pain, that's the first thing I'll say. It's like, dude, you're arching your back the whole time. That makes sense, right? You're putting a lot of emphasis on your lumbar and cervical spine. Question on that? Good? All right, let's go ahead and step out. I'll hold it for you. There you go. A lot easier that way. Nice, nice. All right. Nice, guys. All right. So then we're down to a negative push-up on the ground. So for a negative push-up on the ground, it hasn't changed anything from a barbell. It hasn't changed anything from a bandit, right? At this point, now I'm looking at their hips. That's the main thing I'm looking at. Can they keep the stiffness when the weight gets lower and lower, right? So squeezing my butt, I'm gonna pull my shoulder blades together. I'm gonna go down 1, 2, 3, 4. I can have them stop here and reset, or I can just come up, right? The same thing, now I don't have a band, so I can go down slow, put my knees down, and come back up. But I usually, for women, I'll teach negative going down, knees down, and come up, just like we did with the bandit. Once they get really good in the next couple of weeks, hey, let's try to go up at least for 1. If you can do 1 or 2, great. If not, just keep kneeling until you eventually can do it. For women, mostly it's confidence though. They have to they're never done a push-up. So when it's something new and nobody's ever done it, nobody's been in the gym, nobody's ever done a push-up, it's that breaking that barrier. Once you break that barrier once, it's great, it's so much easier. But getting to breaking that barrier is really hard, especially with women. Women are so scared of their gym sometimes. They're like, okay, let's get you really confident first. Change your mindset, and we can really change anything, right? So I'm looking for a negative is when they start, they usually start doing this. They lose their hips right away, right? So I can try to put the block between my legs, number 1. Or I'm gonna try to push the opposite way. Hey, pull your hips up instead. Maybe don't squeeze your butt, pull your hips up. So it might look like this, right? That might be a little bit different, but I'm getting them away from what they were doing. I'm countering it, right? That's a different way. It's not necessarily the right way to do it, but it's starting to feel different. You're putting more emphasis in the upper body, where eventually they'll be able to do it once they understand their hips better. So we're always trying to think about, how can we load them more? How can you get them to understand the different movement? I already tried the band at this point, right? I already passed that, so I checked that off. So now I'm on a different concept. I might help them out manually, just by my fingers. How much weight are they putting on my hands through the hips, right? So Kara, go ahead and come down. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and up. All right, so what I might do is I might have my fingers on her hip bones, right? Go ahead and come down. Slow. Yeah, so she's not putting any weight in my hands. That's great. That's how I know you're putting all the pressure in your upper body. If you're, go ahead and relax your hips. Yeah, so now she has a lot of weight in my hands, right? So I can tell right away she has a lot of my weight. Go ahead and pull your belly button in and squeeze your butt. Yeah, there you go. All right, go ahead and try it again. Yep, and push up. Nice, that's it, much better, right? Okay, so I'm trying to make sure you tuck your pelvis in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure, like I said, if I needed to change it, I'll pull your hips up manually. I might pull her hips up manually and making sure she can get it, right? And then outside of that, I mean, you can clearly see if somebody can't even keep it at the top right away, they're not ready for this movement. Right. We have to bend it right away, right? We have to bend it right away. Yeah, that's perfect. So like I said, once we teach the first row, it gets a lot easier after that to teach all the other ones because they're just a concept within itself, right? All right, so we did negative push-ups. We did onto the knees. Now we did hips banded push-ups. So now it goes from negative with the band on your hips and then coming up with your knees to negative going down and pushing up without your knees, right? That will be the next step. That's this one basically. The hip banded push-up, it's just not using your knees, right? That's the next elevation. Okay, the elbow banded push-up. So another one that we've used before, sometimes it works differently and this one might work better on heavier people. What we'll do is we'll take this band and we'll do a figure 8 on it. We'll put this between your elbows, right? Right around your elbows, right? So it's gonna take care of your chest instead of your hips, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna use this band to help me put weight into my chest and then back up. And that's for people that have really the opposite problem. So I can take care of my hips, my upper body's not strong enough. Let's do this version, right? Let's do this version. I can do a kneeling push-up like this also, because it's taking care of my upper body a lot more. I need my hips that much. I can also do it just normal, right? And knees down and push up. So there's 3 variations, kneeling only, negative going down, kneeling coming back up, or just normal push up on the toes the whole time, right? I'm gonna have you guys try both. So you guys both try the hips, now we're gonna try both the elbow banded. Okay, let's try it out. Actually, no? Go ahead, try it. Another one that we learned. There you go, exactly. So now put on your elbows, a little bit higher. Yeah, exactly. The higher you can get on your elbows, the better. Women, because they have bigger chests, it's gonna be a little bit harder. There you go, because it'll help you more the higher it is. And you might be able to knock out like 30, go ahead. A little bit of help, right?
Oh, I like this.
What's that? Yeah, it makes you bounce back up, right? Almost.
It's the opposite where you put it around your back and you're using the resistance.
Okay, yeah, so another one would be hips and back from the top, right? Yeah. So basically you could do that, or you can do this one too. It's whatever you feel more comfortable with trying. You just want to have somebody, you're gonna find something that works for people. There's so many different issues. The more you have on your toolbox, the better, right? You can do hip, you can do chest banded from the top, you can do elbow banded. Squeeze your butt. There you go, hips up a little bit higher. And look down for me. Look down for me, look down for me. There you go. You're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. There you go, up, nice. Beautiful, how's it feel? Takes a lot of weight off, right? Yeah, and then obviously, this is a little thin band. If you go with a thicker band, you're bouncing.
Oh, yeah.
You're bouncing the whole time. Another one that we do on the power side is we do put this band on your hips or on your chest for plyo push-ups, right? So another one, we will get there, but we'll just put this and we put it on your chest or your hips, and you're just trying to clap, right? And that's obviously the band will take a lot of weight away. I want to make sure people are able to do power stuff from a band, right? Questions on that one? New for most of you, I think? Good, at least we learned something new. All right, so after that, we go into a floor push-up. Basic floor push-up, you already did it. The one before that would have been a negative push-up, right? So we would be kneeling back up, right? This time we won't be kneeling. So the next one is just a full push-up going down and up. When we just went over. Exactly, all it is, right? So like I said, we want to tuck our chin in. I always think about, hey, if somebody doesn't understand that, I'm gonna put, oh shit, I gotta get ready. I'm gonna put a tennis ball on their chin, right? That's easy. Hand release push-up. So this one's a little bit harder. You might have to look up on this one. So on this one, I'm gonna go down, release my hand, and back up. Right? So hand release push-up. On this one, a couple things I'm looking for. When they're going down, their hips don't touch, their quads don't touch the ground. right? So I'm sliding my hand down, making sure they don't touch the ground. The only thing touching the ground is my belly or my chest. And I'm gonna show like I can see underneath my hands. Then I'm pushing back up. Down, push back up. Down, push back up. You might see a little bit more of lumbar extension than that. A little bit more flexion, but it's just because of the movement, right? You want to try to get a full like sweep of a paper underneath it. If they're not coming off, it's not a real hand release push-up. The idea of this is to just take off all the pressure of the upper body and then build it back on from nothing. So you're taking momentum out of it, right? You're taking momentum out of it. That's what makes it a lot harder, right? Plate loaded push-up, we're gonna put a plate on their mid-back, right? So go ahead and get on the ground, Britt. So basically, yes, exactly. So I'm gonna have you pull your hips up, squeeze your butt. There you go, right there. All right, so I'm gonna be here. If I only have a one-on-one, I'm gonna make sure I keep my hand on the plate. If it doesn't slide down, go ahead and go down for me. And then come back up. Good. So this one, we'll start seeing people sag their hips a little bit more, right? So we have to overemphasize pushing your hips up. Go ahead and go down again. There you go, up. Good, back down. Up. Nice, relax. Okay, so sagging the hips, want to push the hips up a little bit. If you're spotting them, have a hand on the plate so it doesn't slide down or up. Anything else on that? I don't think so. No, that's it. Any questions on this one? No?
What
No?
if you're not there to spot them?
Good question. We have a lot of times, just let them do it. The first time they do it, you need to spot them. Make sure they can get it right. After that, if you trust them, go for it. We even have people load their own plate on their back, right? So most people just go like this, right? And I'm here, and they understand how to do it at this point, right? And then they know how to take it off again.
I feel like if they're going at a good tempo too, like the plate should
Stay. Yeah, so that teaches you to go slow.
Yeah.
Control. Everything we're looking for is control. If you can control every lift, we're solid.